Yeah, we used to. I remember in the Money Gym days when we used to have our quarterly workshops. There was regularly tears and tantrums.
I just take it as such a good sign now. I think if you're not bubbly snot crying every now and then.
Welcome to Own It, Your Business in Your Life, with Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money, and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty, and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show. Yeah. Hello, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm excited.
Well, I am too. It's a bit of an adventure, isn't it?
It is.
So just for the benefit of the listeners, welcome to Own It, the podcast. And I'm joined today by Georgina Noel. Now, what's Judith's done? She liked to take a month off in August, and she's fixed me up with five lovely ladies from her acquaintance and client base who she thinks I'll get on with. And we're going to go through the same format, but it'll be different because obviously we've got a brand new input from Georgina today. But first of all, Georgina, I'm not going to interview you or anything, but if you'd like to take a couple of minutes to tell our lovely listeners who you are, where you come from and what you do and who you help, that'd be brilliant.
Absolutely. Morning. Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to be here because I'm an avid podcast listener, obsessively, one might say. But ever since the podcast started, I have listened to every episode, and I used to work with the lovely Lady J, as I call Judith, and she's just absolutely fabulous, and we got on like a house on fire. So when I saw the opportunity to be a guest, I said, what about me? Pick me. And you did, so I'm very happy. The people that I help, I work with generally female heart-led entrepreneurs, coaches. My background is I'm an EFT trainer, which is the emotional freedom technique, which is the crazy tapping stuff. I also use neurolinguistic programming and a technique called matrix reimprinting. And I tend to, these days, I'm now leaning towards, as I've been called to work with entrepreneurs to help them unlock their blocks around success and making lots of lovely money doing what they love.
Marvellous. And how do people find you, Georgina?
Well, I'm going to give you guys the URL for my Facebook page because my website is currently being redeveloped because I've had some sexy new branding done. So people can find me on Facebook if they just look up Georgina Noel, Mindset and Life Transformation Coach. Okay,
so that's Georgina spelled the way you'd expect, and then Noel is Noel.
Yeah, like French Christmas.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, fantastic. All right, so go and check Georgina out on Facebook. But in the meantime, Georgina, tell me a bit about your week as an entrepreneur in both business and life.
Both business and life. Oh, I can't find my notes. I can't get out of your screen.
Well, why don't I tell you about my week and then we'll come back and do yours.
I found it, but you go. Take it away. Tell me about your week.
Well, it's been quite an interesting week this week. It's been super hot. My computer says it's around 28 at the moment, but I don't believe it. It's usually about 32, 33 because my computer sits in front of a window. It's been really good, but I haven't been down the beach much this week because I had a really fairly mega night out last Friday night where this is just typical of how you get to know people in Greece. Okay, so I went to, where did I go to first? I came down and went on the beach, and then I went and had a glass of rosé at my favourite Cafe Action where the lovely Piero resides. And he's a breath of fresh air, this kid, and I just love going and starting my evening there. And then I went on to the Five Brothers, which is where I often go for dinner. Best chicken on the grill in the world. And I have learned how to order it in Greek now.
Excellent. It always helps in Greece.
Here. And had lovely day. Anyway, I'm walking back from Five Brothers towards the place where I like to walk up to go home. And there were a couple of people I knew sitting outside the local expat bar, Toast Eckies. Sat down with them for a glass of rosé and had a really good chat. And then it all got a bit lively because the Germans on the next table started talking to us. And one of those was a guitar player who runs a radio station in Austria. Boris, his name was, and one of the guys was an amazing singer, a black guy that sings like an angel. So we all ended up with this sort of impromptu sing-off guitar thing going on.
I love it.
And I was there for at least 2 hours. I woke up the next morning with a rather heavy head, and my cleaner was banging on the door, and it all gone a bit, So I've had a quiet week since then.
I don't blame you. What's your tipple of choice when you're there?
Well, they do the local wine by the quarter kilo, half kilo, or kilo, and it's about
God,
I know it's about €2 for a quarter kilo, and a quarter kilo is about 2 glasses. So that's generally what I order.
Danger.
And it's just really very drinkable, and that's a bit dangerous. So I didn't venture out. I've been working quite hard this week, as you'll hear, and I haven't ventured out until I went to Write Club yesterday, which is my creative writing group. And the funny thing about that was that they'd encouraged me to enter a competition with my first short story on the theme of the journey, and I'd written it, and then they critiqued it, and then I hadn't made the changes, and I forgot to submit it. So completely pointless waste of time, except I can probably save it now, because writing competitions have themes, and you can often slant a story to the particular theme. So I'm cross with myself that I missed the deadline, but never mind, it's written and I can use it again.
Nothing's ever a waste of time.
Exactly.
It's just obviously there's something better in the pipeline for you. The universe knows. Yeah. I just trust it these days.
Yes. So tell me about your week.
So for me, my week has been, well, last week I was in New York, and I was very excited to be actually living the laptop lifestyle, because it felt like that's something that I've been craving to create for the 4 years that I've been running my business. And I thought, hang on a minute, I can do it now. So I did it. And that was really exciting. But one of the things that I noticed while I was away, and the thing that I'm really excited about in my week, is the fact that I managed to catch myself in some really tasty self-sabotage.
Oh.
And yeah, it was really exciting. I was like, oh, I spotted it. Yes. So it was all about feeling like because I was around people who used to work in Wall Street, and people who come from super big money, and they work in a very different way to the way that I work. I like to think of myself as a lifestyle entrepreneur, because for me, if I'm not having fun doing what I do, then there's really no point doing it.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just me being a brat, I don't know, but I like to get fun out of life. So when I could see all these people working super super hard, I started to get into the mindset of maybe I'm not working hard enough, maybe I'm not striving enough, and I started to question things, and I started to think, oh, maybe it's not right that I'm working with entrepreneurs, maybe I should be doing something else, and just started questioning everything about myself that I knew to be true. Suddenly was just thrown up in the air, and I had to make sense of it again.
Well, so what do you think caused that? Was it literally just being around people who are super driven and work in a certain way and haven't got any concept of any other way of working?
Yes. Basically, nail on the head. And it was very much about overcoming my fears around, not being able to trust myself and my decision making. And then also to feel like, for some reason, I've just always had a bit of I don't like to think of it, but I know that I have a little tendency to people please. And I don't like that about myself, because I know that it can sometimes lead me down the wrong path for a while. And so that's all that happened, was that I kind of got sucked into an old behavior pattern of, I need to fit in, I need these people to like me. And then I was like, hang on a minute, they'll like you or they won't, and it doesn't matter. So once I kind of caught myself in, I'm very aware that I'm probably not really meant to swear on this, so I'm really having to think about
try not to.
Every single word that comes out of my mouth, I'm like, I need to walk around with a bleep machine in life. No salty language today. So basically that was it. I caught myself in that self-sabotage, in that old pattern, and I just feel very happy with the fact that I managed to do that this time, because otherwise I could have lost months to it.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good when you become more self-aware, isn't it? And just catch yourself in things like that. Very much so. Okay, so what has fueled your fire this week then?
My fire has been officially stoked and fueled by my new branding, because I can be a perfectionist. And again, this is something that I used to deny about myself.
Yeah.
But I can be such a perfectionist that I really struggle to commit to making a decision about, that's the logo I want. Because to me, I'm a very kinesthetic person. So when I look at a picture, when I look at someone's website, I need to feel what this person is about. And so I managed to find an incredible branding person who totally understood what I was talking about and asked me all the right questions. And I just thought, yes, I love you. Please fix my website.
Yeah.
So she's finalized the branding, and it's just delicious, and it's opulent, and it just feels really magical. And yeah, I love it. I love it. Love it.
So how long is it going to be before the new website goes live? Because I'm sure anyone listening to this, and this will go out next Friday, I'm sure anyone listening to this would love to go and see what what it looks like now and what it looks like after it's done. So
yeah, definitely. I'd love people to. So the website's georginanoel.com. It's very easy. And at the moment, it's my old branding, which didn't have a huge amount of thought behind it. It was very much about, let's get a serviceable website so people can find me.
Yeah.
My beautiful video is on there, which I'm still incredibly proud of. But apart from that, it's just a little bit outdated. But please feel free to go and see it so that you can see the transition.
And how will people know? How will people know the difference between the old one and the new one? If they listen to this podcast months afterwards, how will they know?
How will they know the difference? Okay, so I used to work exclusively with weight loss. So a lot of the descriptions are about weight loss. A lot of the language is kind of more food and weight loss related.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that is definitely getting changed. Also, my old branding was very kind of, this is who I feel like I should be in order to be taken seriously as a practitioner. Whereas my new branding is like, screw that. This is who I am. I like to train Muay Thai, which for those of you who don't know what that is, it's Thai boxing. So I beat stuff up, but I also help people with their emotions.
Okay. So when they arrive at the front page, what's the? I'm just trying to get a feel for it. What's
so at the moment it's quite pink.
Okay,
and quite clean, but quite pink, and just me kind of looking into the distance, smiling.
All right, okay.
And then the new branding, my logo, for example, is a bull's skull. Which is new. It wasn't that before. It was just like a little mandala, however you say that, with my signature. But my new logo is a very beautiful illustrated bull's skull.
Oh, I like those actually, because we've got someone down the road's got one hanging on their house, and I always look at it and think, oh, I really like that. I've
just always had a fascination with all things dark and macabre, but I also have an incredible lightness of spirit. So I was always trying to fit a mold of who I thought I needed to be. And when I just embrace the fact that I'm a dichotomy and we're all just a massive contradiction, I think the sooner we understand that we all have a light side and a shadow side, and you kind of shake the hand of the shadow side and make friends with it, life gets so much easier. You become a more well-rounded person. And in terms of being an entrepreneur, the know, like, and trust factor goes through the roof, because people get to see all aspects of you and understand that you are multifaceted. You're not just this kind of linear character.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, the expression that we were told back in the day by Chris Barrow was, you've got to hang your ass out in public. And people either love it or hate it.
I'm not sure I'm ready to get my arse out in public. However,
that's ass for our transatlantic listeners.
Well, I do use the word arse and ass quite a lot in my copy. So.
Right. Difficult to know how to spell it, isn't it? Cool. Okay, well, that's good then. So if you go to the site, Georgina's site, and it's all pink and fluffy looking, then, and talking about weight loss, you're looking at the old one. If you go to her site and you look at and it's got a bull's skull on it, and it's much more direct and much more general talking, as opposed to just about weight loss, then you're at the new one. Interesting, isn't it? It's a real challenge, this whole website thing. I mean, I would certainly agree with what you did, which is get one up and get it there so people can find you, and you start establishing a presence online. But then, as you're looking at it, but for example, my website, NicolaCairncross.com, I don't particularly like it, but I can't think what else to do. And I can't be asked with going through all the, branding bollocks. I don't want to bleep myself out, because I find that stuff very esoteric, and it can swiftly become very annoying, but I am aware that I need better branding. So there is some sort of tension, pull push thing going on there at the moment. So how did you go about finding your branding person?
I had seen work that she had done for somebody else that I just thought was so beautiful. And I reached out to her, and we went and had a cup of coffee, because she actually lives on the island where I live, which is Jersey in the Channel Islands, for anyone who's interested. And she and I had coffee, and we just started talking about, I basically went to her and said, I don't know what I want. I'm going to be a nightmare client. I have no clarity. I'm very confused. I'm not even sure what my niche is anymore. Ooh, and I was having a bit of a crisis at the beginning of the year. And she just said, that's okay. We'll help you figure it out. Cool. And she was just so incredible. Like, oh, if you can hear a crazy sausage dog in the background, I apologize. I did my best to contain.
Couldn't identify the brand, but
yeah, he can't be contained sometimes, I'm afraid. I apologize.
We're very dog and child friendly on this podcast,
and cleaner friendly, right? Because sometimes
absolutely, yeah. And the postman, don't forget.
And the postman, whoever, everyone's welcome. Yeah, he just likes to be involved. So she was just awesome, and she really understood where I was coming from, and she addressed all of my fears in a very gentle way, and let me, because I'm very much the kind of person who needs to talk myself out of my problem. I can write myself out of it, but if you ask me a question, it might take me a while to find my answer.
Some entrepreneurs think with their mouths open. Yeah, very good. Okay, well, what would you do us a favour, Georgina? Would you, in the private group that goes with this Own It the podcast, would you be willing to share your branding lady? Because, of
course,
from us, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. She's incredible, so I highly recommend her.
Well, if she can cope with you being as woolly as that, then she might be able to cope with me being as anti-branding as I am.
Right, this is it. Exactly. She is a genius.
Yeah, because I don't know what to do with it, and I'm fed up with it, and I'm sick of changing it myself, and I just think I really ought to focus on it. Cool. So what's fueled my fire this week is a monster job that I'm a member of several high-level forums, mastermind groups, and one of the guys who I respect very much because he created my app was saying that he'd set up I mentioned this last week. He'd set up a summit, a live summit, a live online conference for all his tribe, and it was really, really, really successful. But people, they obviously could only do it once a year. So what he decided to do was take the recordings from the last one and turn it into a recurring monthly mega summit, like a virtual summit online, but only show it to people who hadn't attended the live thing, and he was going to run it every month, and he was using a combination of software tools, starting with lead pages for the registration page, and then after that, once you've registered, you get jumped to a page where you can choose which sessions you want to listen to. And he was using EverWebinar, which is the evergreen version of Webinar Jam, which is the live webinar software tool. And I immediately understood what he was talking about and knew that I could do the same thing with our Own It the Summit recordings.
Yes.
And I also knew what a monster job it was going to be, because I'd have to re-render all 18 videos with different branding and livery. And I would also then have to upload them to Vimeo. Then I'd have to get the URLs and the timings from Vimeo and move them into EverWebinar and set up 18 separate webinars in there on specific dates and times for each one. I then have to hook it up with Infusionsoft so that the people who registered got into a specific follow-up sequence.
Oh my God, I feel sick even.
I know. I've got to tell you, I did realise how much work it was going to be, and I did know I was capable of doing it technically, but because there were 18 of everything to do, I've had to draw myself up almost like a tick list for each task and each person, so that I didn't miss any of the tasks on each person. And I did look at it the other day, 2 days ago, when it was, I'm not joking, it was super hot here. It must have been about 35, 36 degrees. And I've got all the windows open. I've got the fans going. And on this occasion, I had to turn the aircon on because my brain was overheating. And I just thought, why have I ever started this? Why did I do this? I could be on a sunbed right now.
Why didn't you delegate it? Why?
It's interesting you say that, Georgina, because I have just come across a team recently who are supposed to be very, very good. And for $245 a month, you can have an entire team of techs and design people. and they will work on one task at a time for you. So if I could have broken this down, because I knew exactly what would have been done, but it would have taken me so long to explain what I wanted to do that it genuinely was easier for me to do it. And because I had the time, I just thought, I'm going to do it. But I'll tell you what I will be doing, because it's going to be monthly. Next time I'm going to record myself making the changes, because you could run it monthly and just change the dates. And I will be outsourcing those jobs then, because having set it up as I want it, I'm now happy to go forward and delegate the repeated doing of it. But it has fueled my fire, because I think it is going to be a fantastic lead gen tool. The thing about lead gen is, you need to give something that's of really astonishing value in order to attract new people to your tribe. And I think this is not only astonishing value, which it will be, but it's also it's going to attract the right kind of people who are going to want to join my membership site, because they'll be looking to, do the laptop lifestyle and find out what it's really like to live as a laptop lifestyle person, as you found out in New York this week.
Indeed, yeah. It's interesting to think about this delegation, because I've recently brought on a team in May, and it's the first time. I've been a one-man band for over 3 years, and it is a really interesting process of understanding the task first and then having to communicate that with people in a way that means they get it, that they do it in the way you want it. And that is a skill in itself, I think.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if it's best done written or by video. I think doing a video of what you want done is brilliant, because people can watch it, and then you actually get the outsourcer to make the tick list from the video, because that was the bit that was really boring me, was doing the tick list, for them to follow. So now I get the team to do the tick list. It's much better.
Right.
And exactly. Then the tick list goes into your standard operating procedure folder along with the video. Mm-hmm. And then, it's there forever. And as long as you get your labeling nice and clear, the labeling of your folders, which again, I'm not very good at. My brain's so chaotic. I have to really force myself into, a nice tidy framework here. And if Sarah's listening, my sister, she'll say that I never actually achieved that.
She'll be going, huh. She'll be I'm exactly the same. Like when I hear you guys talking, you and Judith, and I know Judith is so great with the organization, and she's so pragmatic about it. And then I hear you talking about the chaos. I'm just like, I totally relate, because the way that I went to my branding lady is the way that I pretty much approach everything in life. Like I follow my intuition wherever I go, which is great, but it can also lead to me sometimes when I have to create structure around something and relate that to somebody. That's where I can trip myself up. Yeah,
it's very true. And the reason I'm doing all this is because I'm about to move to annual membership of my newly renamed membership site, which, again, you would have heard us talking about whether I should rename it or not. And I've also, I've been doing it monthly, but the monthly people tend to be that I'll have a look and see. And right. The people that join annually are the ones who are more committed. And I know Judith I think she only does annual memberships now, and I've resisted it because I don't like annual memberships myself. I don't like worrying about when the next payment's going to come out. Just again, it's just organisations and just putting it in your cash flow forecast, but you have to know when it's going to come out. So that's the thing that, I've still got a hangover from my scarcity days when I wouldn't have been able to control my cash flow to the point of knowing that it was safe for a big payment to come out like that every year.
Yeah. So that's something I've had to work on for sure.
And I tend to project that still onto my potential clients. I think that they'll all be the same, because that is which is most specific is also most general. But so it's a personal development journey, all this. It really is.
So how would it change your decision if you no longer had that scarcity mindset?
Well, I'm pushing through with the scarcity mindset, so I'm doing it anyway. I'm definitely a feel the fear and do it anyway person. So it's not holding me back at all. Nothing holds me back. Would you like to showcase your business, product or service to highly engaged solopreneurs and business owners every week? We can offer a 30-second mid-roll slot and sponsorship branding on our website and in our private Facebook group. Just contact Nicola at nicolacairncross.com for more details. Cool. So now, client challenge of the week. This is going to be a good one. So I've got no idea, and you've been briefed by Judith, haven't you?
I have.
Oh, what you got?
So I asked all of my lovely mastermind groups and my general community, what is it that is your biggest struggle? And there were two things that came out. And one of them I don't really believe in.
Okay.
Which was not having enough time. I don't really believe in that, so I'm not even going to give that any of our energy. I believe when you really desire something, you make time, you find time, it happens.
Yeah. And also just go and listen to Gary Vaynerchuk on the topic. He'll soon put you straight.
Right? So I'm just like, I honour the fact that, and I respect the fact people feel that that is real for them, but please come work with me and then I'll show you how you can make it happen. But
you're also right. If people want something bad enough, they'll make the time, won't they? And if they don't want something bad enough, they'll never find the time.
And also sometimes not having enough time is a form of self-sabotage. It's a story we tell ourselves so that we don't actually have to progress as well. But that might make me sound like I'm a bit of a ball buster. And I can be, but I just think if you really want something, you'll make it happen. So what I have chosen for us to deliberate is deliberate the right word? I don't know. Is trust.
Oh.
So being able to trust that money will come in. Being able to trust oneself to make the right decision. Generally, just this idea of being able to trust and kind of that, what that brings with it, the idea that if we trust it, there's a certain element of letting go. And that really freaks people out. So what do you think what comes up for you around trusting yourself, trusting money will come in, all that good stuff?
Well, I'm going to start from a position of growing up with a paranoid schizophrenic parent who used to come home from school and find everything had changed. So she very much brought me up in an environment of don't ever trust anyone because they'll always let you down. Mm-hmm. And that comes from her own experiences. And she specifically taught me not to trust any man because they will always let you down. So I've had to do quite a lot of work around that. I don't know if I trust anyone apart from my family, to be honest. Because I don't believe it's that people do things to you deliberately. I think it's just that people do their own thing and they're not even thinking about you. So I think that, so there's quite a lot of work around that to be done, obviously. Trusting that money will come, I can't do that because unless I actually take the action to make it possible. Mm-hmm. So I'm very much on the opposite side of the coin to you and Judith on that one. I know that she very much, well, I just believe how's it going to come if you don't do anything to help it come?
Oh, I'm an action taker. Don't get me wrong. I take action, but I think what these lovely people are saying is it's almost like what I see in these particular people, because I know them obviously because they're my clients. What I see is this element of them not trusting. It's not actually not trusting that the money will come in. That's what they think it is. But what it actually is not trusting themselves to put the work in that they need to put in order to bring the money in. Not
trusting themselves. See, I'm the only person I trust. So, I don't know. That sounds a bit harsh. Judith and I were talking about harsh last week. No, that does, and I have changed a lot since I was a teenager. But at the end of the day, if you can't trust yourself, then who can you trust?
Well, exactly. But imagine living in a world, and this is a big thing for people. Well, for a lot of the people that come to me, because obviously we like attracts like, and I have a big history of feeling that I couldn't trust myself because of, there's no real large reason why that, there's no big clangor in my, I don't, unfortunately, like yourself, I don't have that big thing that happened around having a mum that had an illness. It's more about just like a series of lots of little things that led to me not trusting myself. And I wonder whether you're speaking about your mum, that idea of maybe she had that feeling of not being able to trust herself because of things things constantly changing for her, and so I can understand how you've grown up feeling that you are the only person you can trust.
Also, we used to come home from school and she was moving us to Wales, or we were moving to Scotland, or we were changing school, or we were moving house, or she'd change the bedrooms around while we were away. You literally couldn't trust anything to stay the same, which is, I've got to say, I look back on that and I think, thank God, because it taught me to be comfortable with change. And it taught me to, and I think that's why I did have this innate trust that I am enough, I can do it. She used to say, what was it she used to say? It's funny because the two oldest children have a really positive memory of her, and the two youngest children don't, because she was pretty much a lot sicker by then. So, you know, she taught the two oldest children, if you want something bad enough and you try hard enough, you can, and this was a classic, she said, and if you work hard enough for it.
Ding, ding, ding. My little limited belief bells going.
I've had to really work on that one, as you can imagine. But yeah, no, so she did give Heather and I the sense that we are capable and we can trust ourselves. So interesting. I can't imagine what it must be like to think. So people don't set goals, or how does it manifest itself, this lack of trust in yourself?
Oh my goodness, in so many ways. It's so many ways. Generally it will show up in self-sabotage, so things like, you know, again, not trusting yourself to make the right decision, so you just never make a decision. And so in that, what will often happen is that people, because obviously I work a lot with people's money stories and their relationship with money, what will happen is I'll see people handing off the responsibility to somebody else to make the decisions around their money or around their business or around their life.
Makes me feel ill just thinking about it.
I know. I'm so happy that I've done the amount of work on that I have, because it gives me obviously an innate understanding of where these people currently are, but it also allows me to give them hope that your story can change and you can trust yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't always very good at looking after my money. And in fact, I didn't really understand an awful lot about money at all, which is why I went on the whole money gym trail, you know, and that's how Judith and I ended up meeting, because we were both on the sort of same interest level around not just earning money, but looking after it once you've got it.
Yeah, I would love to play the cash flow game again. So it's a cash flow game.
Yeah.
Because a couple of years ago, I was lucky enough to go around to Judith's lovely summer house in her garden and play the game. And I would be so interested now to see, with all the work that I've done on my money stuff, to see what my decisions would be like and what the outcome would be like now that I've done all of that.
Yeah, I think the main thing, I mean, the books were life-changing for me, and playing the game was just such great fun. And I think it really hammers home how many different ways there are to, you know, and it just breaks my heart that people, and I know why, that we're not, you know, they're not taught to do this stuff at school, because they don't want anyone knowing. But, you know, it just breaks my heart that every single generation has to learn this stuff afresh, unless you're lucky enough to have a mentor or an elderly, a relative who can share how things really work, you know, or you've got an entrepreneur in the family who can put you straight. You know, it's just frightening. I find it absolutely frightening that people aren't taught any of this stuff at school.
Yeah, and I very much came from a background of being very comfortable financially, but there was still a lot of fear around it. So even though there was enough money, we were, you know, it always felt like in the background there was this undertone of there's not enough. Yeah. But I always had whatever I needed, because I was the baby. So I was like, you know, the golden child when I came along a lot later than the others. So I effectively had like 3 months.
The others, they'd all moved out.
Yeah. Or they were there, but they were extra childcare. So I had like 3 mums.
Oh, right, yeah.
Great. But because of that.
Go on, sorry.
Oh, so just because of that, I grew up in a very kind of privileged way, because I had all of these people wanting to look after me. But that has its own backlash, because when you have a lot of people looking after you, you don't necessarily realize that you can and should be able to look after yourself. So, you know, really, parents can't do anything right. I'm sorry to tell you, parents. Whatever you do,
that's for sure.
You're going to screw them up, whatever you do, but you're going to screw them up in the perfect way for them. So don't worry. So yeah, I just think that when it comes to trust around money, I didn't trust myself to make good decisions, because I'd never had to make decisions around money.
Yeah. I think my lack of trust around money was that it would work out, you know. So I would hesitate to make plans and make decisions. Looking back for, you know, pre-personal development days, I would hesitate to make plans and decisions because I'd be frightened that they wouldn't work, not because of what I'd done, but because of some external factor. You know, I trusted in myself, but I didn't trust in the universe, if you like. Yeah. We're focusing a bit on money. So what are the other ways that a lack of trust can sabotage people's success?
Just because they don't, fear of failure, they don't trust themselves with what you're saying there, sometimes people don't trust themselves to be able to overcome any obstacles that the universe throws up.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that is huge for me in the work I do with clients is that they seem to expect that you get to a certain level and the obstacles stop coming.
Oh, tell me. I feel like
the
more you grow, the obstacles come, but you just feel a bit more adept. Like you just want to better at dealing with them.
And also you get to the point where you've got a tribe of people around you who are all at the same level as you. So you know that you've got the backup of these people to go and ask and get help from. But then you have to trust to be able to expose yourself, to be, people are scared sometimes of what people think, aren't they? So you have to trust that the people you're going to talk to are not going to ridicule you or belittle you or think less of you.
Exactly. And this whole idea of, as a coach, especially in the kind of work that I do, I know a few weeks ago you were talking about a psychotherapist who said, it's difficult because people don't want to talk about their anxiety and stuff. And actually, generally, when someone says, I'm struggling, whether it's with anxiety or money or in your business, if someone says, I'm struggling, there will be a plethora of other people who will put their hands up and go, me too.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
And it just takes that one brave soul to reach out and go, I'm stuck, I'm struggling, I'm panicking, help me. And suddenly, because of the communities that I'm part of, and I'm hoping that the communities you're in are the same, when you do that, because my people are generally helpers, as soon as you put your hand up, people just rush in to help.
Yeah.
And which I think is a really beautiful thing. So
yeah, my communities are much more blokey orientated, not necessarily with blokes, but with blokier girls as well. So that's the environment I feel more comfortable in. And but yes, they are very supportive and people, because it's a private environment. I think that's really important as well. They're quite private environments, and that's one reason to join people's programs and masterminds is to give yourself a peer group environment that is supportive and private at the same time, where people have been through the same things that you've been through, probably. There's nothing new under the sun, is there?
No, I was saying this to someone the other day. I was like, nothing's original. Don't worry. Just put your spin on it and own it, enjoy it, and off you go.
Yeah. And I'm often the first one to put their hand up and say, I don't understand this, because I know I'm a bright person. So if I don't understand it and I'm a bright person, then it means that there are other people who don't understand it who are bright people too. But if you're the first, you make it safe, don't you? You make a safe space for other people to say, me too.
Absolutely. And when it comes to things like the deep emotional work that I do with people, it can be tricky to get people to own that vulnerability and to stand up and talk. But I pride myself in creating a really safe space where people can do that.
Yeah, I remember in the Money Gym days when we used to have our quarterly workshops, there was regularly tears and tantrums.
I just take it as such a good sign now. I think if you're not bubbly snot crying every now and then, you're not growing.
Sharing.
So anyway, moving on.
So coming back to the original challenge then, just remind everyone what we're talking about, because I need a bit of a regroup.
So we're just talking about the idea that people struggle with trusting themselves, whether that be with making decisions or making money or whatever area of your life. If you feel like you can't trust yourself for some reason, then it just wreaks havoc.
And also, this whole thing of people the thing I see is people rushing into partnerships or joint ventures because they are desperate not to have to do it on their own. And this is an area where I think that trust should be reserved, because if you rush in and you trust someone, just implicitly, then you really need to stop just for a minute and get something down in writing. So, for example, I'm doing more and more joint ventures nowadays where people come to me and I can see, I'm working with one lady in particular who I was introduced to on a sunbed on the beach back a few months back. And she's very big in radio and podcasting, and her partner is as well. He's got a very big podcast, and they had every element of what they needed to make a successful online business, except the tech know-how and the knowledge of what to do. So we did a joint venture, and I'm doing more and more of those. But especially as she's a daughter of a friend here, I could have rushed into that with no thought of how to protect both of us in the event that it goes wrong. So before I did anything and before we got too excited, I just said, I wrote her an email. I just said, this is how I see it working. Is this the kind of thing you're thinking of as well? And then we hit the email backwards and forwards a couple of times till we were both happy with it. And we said, okay, so if there's anything we haven't foreseen, then X, which is her mother-in-law and my friend, will make her the arbitrator. Right. So it's really important to be able to go into a partnership with trust that you'll work things out, but it's much better to set the ground rules before you start working with someone. So I would caution people on that topic there.
So with a view to offering some nuggets of advice, I guess what we've covered is if you're going to be working in partnerships, check that it's not just because you don't trust yourself to do the job.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yes.
And also, because I definitely did that at the beginning. I made alliances, and I look back and I think I was only doing that. And Lady J pointed this out to me. She was like, "Really? Do you really need to be doing that?" So she had my number early on. Yeah. But now I would prefer to create my own work because I trust myself to deliver it and be able to deliver what I say I'm going to, which is a nice and a powerful feeling. When it comes to money, I would say your advice around taking action, actually doing the work is really important. You can trust that money's going to come in, but you have to actually put the action steps in place in order to make sure that happens for you.
And the way I just like to think of that is, the biggest part of the law of attraction is the word action. You've got to make the environment conducive. And the other thing about money is I find that whenever I look after my money better, I run a weekly cash flow forecast, which I update weekly to my bank account. But I took a year off from that last year because I was, there was various things happening that were making me feel a bit grim. And I found that I definitely generated less money when I wasn't looking after the money I had as well. Yeah. So, paying attention to your money and looking after your money is a very positive thing. Even if you've got none, even if there's nothing coming in, I found that as soon as I started taking care of it again, it all started to flow again.
Yes, and one of the best tips I picked up from many of the money books I've read is from Get Rich Lucky Bitch by Denise Duffield-Thomas.
She's great.
Yeah, I just love her. She's great. She uses EFT as well, so she goes up in my estimation. But she actually says, track what's coming in. We're all so busy looking at what's going out. What if you turned your focus to what's coming in and just be thankful for every penny? So now, even if I see one penny on the floor, I pick it up and I say, thank you, universe, because to me, it is about that shifting that focus, as you guys always say on the podcast, what you put your attention to and where you put your focus, that's what grows. So
we went to we must crack on actually, but we went to an amazing event in London, what we're talking about, New Jersey. It was T. Harv Ekker's Millionaire Mind event, and it was, I don't know, I can't remember at all what possessed us to go, but there was about 10 of us went, and about 5 people dropped out and just hung out and went shopping and had massages, but a few of us did stay. And it drummed into it, every time you see a penny and you pick it up or whatever, you just say, I am a money magnet. I love being American. I am a money magnet. Right, we must crack on. What's your word of the week then?
My word of the week is enjoyment.
Uh-huh.
After my experience in New York City, I realized that if you don't bring enjoyment into all areas of your life and your business, then you are missing a trick. And what's even the point?
Yeah, totally agree with you. And it's a lesson I'm relearning because I'm having to create a new life, and I get up every morning. I think, what would I enjoy to do today? Which is a really novel way of being for me.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you?
Well, I'm going to do something that I would never get away with if Judith was here.
You've got like five words of the week. I almost brought 2 just to be.
It's Clicks and Leads Academy, because that's what I'm calling my inner circle now. I'm rebranding, and I just found it just popped into my head when I was washing up, and I thought, oh, that's perfect. And yes, so I couldn't get Clicks and Leads. I could have got clicksandleadsacademy.com, but I thought it was too long, so I just went with clicksandleads.academy. So I'm very pleased with myself on that one.
Excellent.
Project updates then.
Okay, my project update is I've just finalised the details on my Money Mindset Mastery. That's the working title. It may stay there, I'm not sure. But it's a 4-week intensive program for people to just smash their money mindset, really. And I'm really excited to deliver it because I've done so much work on this myself. I feel like I can give people the shortcuts that I wish I'd known at the beginning.
Yeah, really.
And I love, like we were talking about, group atmosphere, and that I think the collective unconscious of a group working for a common goal is such a powerful thing in terms of the law of attraction, and energetically it's just such a beautiful thing. I always keep my groups very small so that I can give everyone as much attention as possible, but I like that there's more than just a couple of people, so that you can really, again, that put your hand up and say, I'm struggling with this, I've got this issue, or I think this, and it just triggers everyone else and it helps them dig even deeper into their own stuff.
You have to be careful with the small group thing, don't you? Because the 80-20 rule definitely applies with group coaching, and if you have too few people, then and not all of them turn up, you end up, without the 20% active people that you need to be putting their hands up and things like that.
I believe that my pricing and my messaging attracts the people that are going to show up. And also, if they don't, I just kick their ass. So I'm very, I would rather have so I tend to work with groups in this kind of environment. Currently, I work with up to 10 people because I would rather have a smaller group like that, where I can give everyone as much attention as they need, so that they're going to get the shifts, because I really enjoy and delight in seeing people just have massive shifts.
Yeah.
I want people to transform in our work together. And so because I'm dedicated to making that happen, and that's what I enjoy most, I like to create an environment where I feel I can deliver that.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And the other thing that's fascinating, obviously, is the fact that there is an upsurge in interest in wealth creation and money mindset, and obviously having lived through the last renaissance of that kind of thing, and done very well from it, and also had lots of shifts myself and seen people have lots of shifts. It's fascinating that it's becoming okay to talk about money again.
I know, especially in my realm of, woo-woo and spirituality,
Yes.
to be able to say to people, guys, it's fine. Money is energy. Of course it's spiritual. It's energy. It doesn't get more spiritual than that. And the more you have, the more you can give. So yeah, it's about re-educating people. And I love my people. I love being able to teach them that. And it's very exciting when they actually start making more money and they get excited about making more money.
Yeah, and they realise it's not a bad thing to.
Yeah.
No, fascinating. And we used to get some really, fluffy woo-woo types. I don't know how better to explain it, really. Just people more esoteric, esoterically minded people, and they, watching them just come alive in an environment where it was okay to talk about it, and okay to want, say that you want greater abundance in your life and things like that. It was they had the biggest shifts a lot of the times. Yeah. Fantastic. So on project updates for me, I'm reporting on the podcast. I have changed the title of our podcast because I realised it just said "Own It, Your Business and Your Life," which really wasn't very good as an SEO phrase. And I went and had a look at what the other people who talk about the kind of things we talk about were using. And so I would just tell you, if you've got a podcast, the title of the podcast is the only thing now that iTunes is taking notice of for SEO purposes. So do go and add in 2 or 3 key phrases into your title at the end of your title. So I've taken off your business and your life and included that in the description and the subtitle, but not in the actual title. And I've crammed in 3 key phrases there. So finally, who or what's impressed this week?
What's impressed is a book called Thank and Grow Rich, a 30-day experiment in shameless gratitude and unabashed joy. And it's by Pam Grout. And I can't remember if it's ever been mentioned on your podcast.
No, it hasn't, no.
But I'm sure Lady J, if she hasn't already read this, is now on Amazon as we speak, ordering it. It is just a beautiful, gentle, and incredible way to start looking at life. And again, I'm all about enjoyment. So it really helps you to understand how enjoying what you have right now is the best way to create more of what you want in your life.
I totally and utterly agree. I totally 100 million %. And it's also the secret of happiness. You know, you cannot feel sad or lacking if you're feeling grateful for stuff. And, you know, even if it was so funny, because when things were really tough after all the property crash and everything, and the, you know, we closed the money gym and all that stuff, and I went through a couple of years of really I needn't have gone through, but I had to learn my own way. But I remember then I used to try and find things to feel grateful for, and it was usually that there was a hot shower in the morning, and often when I've concentrated on that as the only thing I could find to feel grateful for, the boiler would break.
Right.
Testing me further. But no, you can't feel down when you're feeling grateful. I mean, in fact, I've got a list of 100 things I'm grateful for that I regularly skim through.
Yeah, I write every day. I do 50. I do 25 of the things that I actually have. And even if it's like, I am grateful for this journal, I am grateful for the sunlight or whatever it is, 25, and then 25 things that I wish I desire to create in my life as though they've already happened. So,
oh, that's pretty dedicated. 50 things a day. Jesus.
I tell you, this manifesting doesn't just happen overnight, you know.
No, you have to take action and do some work.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, good stuff.
Who or what's impressed you?
Bean Ninjas Tom has impressed me. BeanNinjas.com is a Australian-based company, but they do work in the UK and the USA now, and they entirely work virtually with internet entrepreneurs, and they use the Zero system. So I was wanting to go back to Zero for my new company, and my VA Patricia is having a sabbatical at the moment, and she used to do all the Zero stuff for me, and God knows how she did it, but I had to go and I couldn't do it. And the thing I couldn't do particularly was because I've got Bank, PayPal and Stripe as my payment gateways, and PayPal I've got in, and in fact Stripe I've got in 2 different currencies. So it was getting quite complicated, and Bean Ninjas Tom has come along and for a very reasonable fee set me up in the way Bean Ninjas would set up a new client, and now I can maintain it myself, and to the point where it's taking more than half an hour a week, and then I'm going to go straight to Bean Ninjas, and they do a recurring billing, so it's not like you get horrible bills at the end of the year that are huge. And he's just been very patient with me and a pleasure to deal with. So Bean Ninjas Tom, thank you very much. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I think we've got on really well in spite of the fact we never met before.
I know. Excellent.
That's us done. And look at that, well under the hour as well. Judith will be thrilled.
She'll be like, God, hurry up. I'm writing the notes here.
Yes, exactly. Good point. Well, she loves listening to it. Thank you very much, Georgina. I've really appreciated your company today. And if you want to go and find out more about Georgina, it's georginanoel.com. And we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye. You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. The podcast is called Own It, Your Business and Your Life. Do come and visit us at ownitthepodcast.com. We'd love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com, and you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.